Secretary Cotter?
Yes, Ms. Cotter is here. Mrs. Grisomkowski is here. Mrs. Forrest,
I am here also.
Mrs. Dodd,
Here.
Mrs. Pastana,
Here.
and Mr. Wiseman.
I'm here.
Last but not least, Mr. Carlson.
Here.
Thank you. We're all
All right.
present.
We'll move forward with the roll call, but why don't we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this is the organizational meeting, which is an annual meeting, and it will be followed by the regular board meeting. I do have a couple of citizen participation forms, and I'm going to hold those for the regular board meeting. I don't see any of them dealing with the items that we're addressing on the organizational meeting. If I am wrong about that, please come forward. Okay, seeing. So public comment will now move to the organizational meeting. In accordance with Michigan law, it is necessary for the board to select a president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. After being selected, the newly elected president will chair the meeting. I will now open up for nominations for the president of the Huron Valley School Board of Education. Ms. Forrest?
I would love to nominate Sean Carlson to continuing as board president.
Thank you, Ms. Forrest.
I'll second that.
All right, there's been a motion made by Ms. Forrest and supported by Ms. Pastana. Any other nominations? I won't be offended. Seeing no other nominations, nominations are closed. I will now go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
Thank you. Ms. Cotter is a yes. Mrs. Grisomkowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodd,
Yes.
Mrs. Forrest,
Yes.
Mrs. Pastana,
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
And Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Congratulations,
All
Mr.
right.
President.
Well, thank you. All right, we'll now move and open up nominations for Vice President of the Board of Education for the 22-23 school year. Mr. Weissman.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Denise Forrest for the position of Board Vice President.
Is there support? Supported by Ms. Dodd. All right, are there any other nominations for Vice President of the Board of Education? Seeing none, well, first let me ask, I didn't ask myself this, but do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do
All
accept
right.
the nomination.
And no other nominations. Nominations are closed. We'll now move for a roll call vote.
Thank you. Mr. Wiseman,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodd,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes. Mrs. Grisomkowski,
Yes.
Forrest, Mrs. Pastana,
Yes.
Mrs. Forrest.
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Congratulations to Mrs.
Congratulations.
Forrest.
Congratulations. All right, I will now open up nominations for Secretary of the Board of Education for the school year of 22-23. Ms. Cotter.
Yes, I would like to nominate fellow board member Mrs. Pastana for this position.
Is there support? Mr. Weissman supports. Do you accept the position
Yes.
or the nomination, I should
Yes,
say?
I do.
All right, are there any other nominations? Seeing none, nominations are closed. We'll now move for a roll call vote.
Thank you. Ms. Cotter is a yes. Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Mrs. Grisomkowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Pastana, do you accept?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Forrest,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodd,
Yes.
and Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All right, I will now open up nominations for the Board of Education Treasurer for school year 22-23. Ms. Pastana.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Wiseman for treasurer for 22-23.
I'll support that, please.
All right, and supported by Ms. Cotter. Do you accept the position?
Yes.
The nomination? Yes. All right.
I'll accept the nomination.
All right, are there any other nominations? Seeing none, nominations are closed. We'll now move for a roll call vote.
Thank you. Mrs. Pastana?
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes. Mrs. Grisomkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman, do you accept?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Dodd?
Yes.
Mrs. Forrest?
Yes.
And Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Thank you. We have a new exec board.
All right. Congratulations, Mr. Weissman. All right, we'll now move for the designation of attorneys. Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion to, oh, you're going to want names?
Yeah, go ahead.
I lost mine.
Here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I move that the following law firms be appointed for 22-23 school year. Let me go ahead and read them.
Yeah, just, yes, go ahead.
Okay. Thurn Law Firm, Clark Hill, Hanba and Laser, Miller Johnson, Troutman Pepper, Miller Camfield, Barnum, Collins, and Blaha.
All right, the motion's been made by Ms. Pastana. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Weissman. Are there any questions or comments regarding designation of attorneys? Seeing none, we'll move for a roll call vote.
Thank you. Ms. Cotter is a yes. Mrs. Grisomkowski?
Yes.
Oops,
Denise Pastana made the motion.
correct. Mrs.
Yes.
Mrs. Pastana, Mr. Wiseman,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes, and Mrs. Grisomkowski was a? Mrs. Dodd,
Yes.
Mrs. Forrest,
Yes.
and Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Thank you. We have our attorneys nominated.
All right, our attorneys have been selected. We'll now move to designation of auditors. Mr. Weissman.
Yes. I move that the Board of Education appoint Hungerford Nichols as the district's auditors for the 2022-2023 school year.
Is there support for?
I'll support.
All right, supported by Denise Pastana. Motion made by Mr. Weissman. Any questions in regards to designation of attorneys? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move.
Auditors.
Auditors, excuse me. Same thing. No. We'll go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Pastana. No, Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Mrs. Pastana,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodd,
Yes.
Mrs. Forrest,
Yes.
Mrs. Grisomkowski, Ms. Cotter is a yes, and Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sufficient voting in the affirmative. We have our designation of auditors. We'll now move to motion item D on the agenda, which is designation of insurance agent. Ms. Dodd.
Sure, I'll move that Arthur J. Gallagher and Co. be appointed as district's insurance agent of record and Creative Benefits Insurance Solutions Incorporated for workers' comp for the 22-23 school year.
And I see a support from Mrs. Grisomkowski.
Okay,
All right, any questions in regards to the designation of the insurance agent? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
thank you. Mrs. Dodd,
Yes.
Mrs. Grisomkowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Forrest,
Yes.
Mrs. Pastana,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes, Mr. Wiseman,
Yes.
and Mr. Carlson.
Yes. All right, sufficient voting in the affirmative. Our insurance agent has been selected for the 22-23 school year. We'll now move to item E, which is establishment of bond for employees of the school district. Can I get a motion? Ms. Forrest.
Sure. I move that the bonds on school employees currently in force with Great American Insurance Company be approved for the 2022-23 school year.
Is there support? Mrs. Grisomkowski supports that motion. Any questions or comments regarding establishment of bonds for employees of the school district? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
Thank you. Mrs. Forrest,
Yes.
Mrs. Grisomkowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodd,
Yes.
Mrs. Pistena,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes, Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
And Mr. Carlson.
Yes. Sufficient voting in the affirmative. We have established our bonds for employees of the school district. We'll now move for designation of depositories for bank accounts. Mr. Weissman.
Yes, I move that the bank depositories for bank accounts and signatures for Huron Valley Schools for the 2022-2023 school year be approved as shown in Exhibit A.
I'll support.
Ms. Pistana supports.
Mrs. Forrest?
Ms.
Oh, Pistana? Okay.
All right. Any questions or comments regarding designation of depositories? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
Thank you. Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
Mrs. Pistana,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodd,
Yes.
Mrs. Forrest,
Yes.
Mrs. Grisomkowski,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes, and Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sufficient voting in the affirmative. Motion passes. We'll now move to designation of official newspapers. Ms. Dodd.
Sure. I move that the Milford Times, the Oaken Press, and the Spinal Column be designated as the official newspapers that may be used for posting legal notices for Huron Valley Schools for the 22-23 school year.
Motion made by Ms. Dodd, supported by Ms. Forrest. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll now move to a roll call vote.
Thank you. Mrs. Dodd,
Yes.
Mrs. Forrest.
Yes.
Mrs. Pistana,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes, Mrs. Grisomkowski,
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
And Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sufficient voting in the affirmative. Official newspapers have been established. We'll now move to item H on the agenda, which is designation of school board associations. Ms. Pistana.
I move that the Board of Education secure 2022-23 memberships in the following organizations: the Oakland County School Board Association, Michigan Association of School Boards, and the National School Board Association, Michigan Parent Teacher Student Association.
Supported by Ms. Dodd. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll now move for a vote.
Thank you, Mrs. Pistana,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodd,
Yes.
Mrs. Forrest,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes, Mrs. Grisomkowski,
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman,
Yep.
and Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Sufficient voting in the affirmative. The school board associations have been established for the 22-23 school year. We'll now move to item I, which is designation of persons responsible for implementing the public notice requirements of the Open Meetings Act. Ms. Cotter? Do you have a motion? Ms. Forrest has a motion. Go
I'll
ahead.
make the
Oh.
motion. I move that
Just
the Board of
flipping it over.
Education designate the superintendent's administrative assistant as the person responsible for implementing the public notice requirements of the Open Meetings Act.
And supported by Ms. Dodd. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move for a vote.
Thank you. Mrs. Forrest,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodd,
Yes.
Mrs. Pistana,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes, Mrs. Grisomkowski,
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman,
Yes.
and Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. We'll now move to item J, which is designation of the board meeting dates and locations, Exhibit B. I just.
I will make that
You'll
motion
make
then.
that motion.
Or item J, I move that our Board of Education accept the board meeting dates and the locations for the 22-23 school year. It's shown in our Exhibit B.
Okay, is there support for that motion? Supported by Ms. Forrest. I just want to take an opportunity on the dates, just to communicate those to the public. You have that readily available. Yeah, thank you. So it'll be July 11th. And then we'll have one board meeting on August 15th. 2 in September, September 12th and September 26th. 1 in October, October 17th. 2 in November, November 7th and November 21st, 1 in December, December 12th, 2 in January, January 9th and January 23rd, 1 in February, February 6th, 2 in March, March 6th and March 20th, 1 in April, April 17th, 2 in May, May 1st, May 15th, and 3, actually there are 3 meetings, but one is the budget hearing. 2 meeting nights, June 12th, which will have the budget hearing, and then followed by the regular meeting, and then June 19th, which will be the annual organizational meeting. So I think that's important to point that out. And start times will be 6 PM. And are there any other questions or comments regarding that?
No.
Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
Thank you. Ms. Cotter is a yes. Mrs. Forrest,
Yes.
Mrs. Grisomkowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodd,
Yes.
Mrs. Pastana,
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
And Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Board meeting dates and locations have been established for the 22-23 school year. We'll now move to item K, which is designation of financial advisors. Mr. Weissman.
Yes, I move that the Board of Education appoint Baker Tilly as the bond proceeds investment manager for the 2022-2023 school year.
Is there support? Ms. Grisomkowski supports the motion. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
Thank you. Could I ask again who supported that?
Mrs. Grisomkowski.
Gotcha. Mr. Wiseman,
Yes.
Mrs. Grisomkowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Forrest,
Yes.
Mrs. Pastana,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodd,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter is a yes, and Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sufficient voting in the affirmative. The designation of financial office advisors have been established. All right. Are there any other items? Item L. Okay. We will now adjourn this organizational meeting and just take a brief recess by some seats, and folks might switch seats here. We are adjourned.
I'm staying right here. I'm going to miss you, dear friend.
All right.
Treasure, piece of cake. Oh, I gotta take another. Take your name plate too. Sorry, I got lots of them. I shouldn't. What all is hers? This all hers? Oh my gosh, you forgot.
Is that a water?
Yep, all right. Oh, sweater. Where are you, a third trip? Oh my God. Thank you. This one's mine.
They're my boots.
Yes.
The regular Board of Education meeting for June 13th will come to order. We'll go ahead and take a roll call.
Give me a pen. Thank you.
Right.
All right. How come- Oh, I see it. Ms. Cotter, sorry. Are you here?
Roll call.
Present.
She's giving her a hard time.
What time is it?
Things look different from this side.
Okay, Ms. Grisomkowski. Here. Ms. Forrest.
Still here.
Ms. Dodd.
Here.
Ms. Pistanis here. Mr. Wiseman.
Yes, I'm here.
And Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Thank you.
All
Everyone
right.
present and accounted
All
for.
present and counted for. We're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance again.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm going to look for approval of the agenda, but there's a minor change here. We're going to move the unfinished business, which is section 5, Roman numeral 5B, playground equipment, will move to new business under section 6. So playground equipment will move to section 5B, will move to new business and be section 6A. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move for I'm just going to do a voice vote. All in favor of the agenda as presented with the change that was just referenced, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. The agenda is approved. We'll now move to communication and reports, items from the board president. We're going to move this right along and move, no comments here tonight. I'll save mine for good and welfare in regards to the graduations that took place over the weekend. Recognitions, Dr. Salah.
I believe we have one recognition this evening,
All right.
and I'm actually going to turn it over to Ms. Pistana to serve as the advocate for the board. I think.
Oh, okay. So this evening, we would like to recognize Mrs. Kim Root. She will be leaving us at the end of the month, and the board just wants to thank you and tell you how much we appreciate all of you have done for Huron Valley Schools, all of us, all of our students and community, and we're going to miss you, Kim.
All right, Kim, I'm gonna meet you at the podium here. We'll do this your way.
We did it my way, this wouldn't be happening. That's what I thought.
So this is a little bittersweet to see Kim go. I can remember, I was newly on the Board of Education. I think I might have been in my second year. What I do remember most is we had a bus accident in the district, I think a couple of weeks prior to you coming in for the interview. And so she was interviewed by, it was Superintendent Johnston at the time. And then she was recommending Kim in regards to the executive committee, had an opportunity to ask some questions. And of course, there was no doubt in my mind that Kim would be a difference maker in Huron Valley, and she certainly has been. She has been a key contributor to many of the changes that we witness in this district. She has been key person on the spot for safety in regards to communication. Of course, she's got her stripes before the pandemic, but she got some extra stripes during the pandemic too. Kim, of course, we've got a Huron Valley Hero recognition for you here that I want to present to you. And of course, I want to get all the board in a picture with you. And then this coin, Kim was instrumental in helping us get this coin going as well. And many of you have heard me say it, but it's worth repeating. Of course, the coin has a Lakeland Eagle on one side and a Milford Maverick on the other side. And in between is our mission statement that says inspiring and building futures, one student at a time. And Kim has never lost that focus of the mission statement. Every day coming into work has understood how important it is to making sure that our kids have a safe place to come to, and that she's doing her best to communicate to our parents. On the back side of the coin, it says academics, athletics, and arts. And being a AAA district of course, focusing on academics, but we all understand too that if you're going to inspire and build futures, you need to have individualized programming, and that certainly is what helps when we have a great arts program and also a great athletics program. People find their voice, our students find their voice in who they are as individuals. And Kim, you have been just a tremendous asset to this district, and so proud of you, and good luck on your future journey, and congratulations. Yes. And before I turn the mic over to you, I'm going to ask for, I know we have some comments around the table, and I don't know who wants to go first. Ms. Cotter?
So going back that many years ago, when we were Kim was being hired by Dr. Johnston at the time, it's the board's responsibility then to, again, interview those people that would be going into different coat positions. And I remember meeting her at 8:30 in the morning at Lakeland High School, not realizing she drove from the west side of the state to get here. It was a very pleasant interview. I enjoyed meeting Kim. And I also have had the opportunity to get to know Kim and her family very well. There certainly have been an asset to Huron Valley. They've turned out to be just beautiful friends of mine. I'm going to miss them very much. And Kim's shoes will be hard to fill. But I wish her and her family the best. Thanks, Kim, for everything you've done for us. Truly appreciate it.
Ms. Forrest.
Thanks for being with us, Kim. You know, I adore you, and you bring some light and levity to all situations. But when the rubber hits the road, you get real serious and you handle all of our issues. I think I really first started working with you on the Safety and Security Task Force when I transitioned from my art teacher role to my EA president role. And you put together a phenomenal team. And, you know, what we started at that time still continues. So big shoes to fill. I hope you're taking notes. And, you know, we're all going to miss you, but you guys are going to, you know, have a great future, and good luck with your future employment. You're still going to make a difference for the whole state now.
Mr. Weissman.
Yes, sometimes words are inadequate, but a simple thank you means an awful lot too. And I, on behalf of myself, my family, and our entire community, want to say thank you for the work that you've done. I've certainly known you for a number of years as a citizen of the Huron Valley Schools, but I've been very blessed to get to know you and work with you over the last 6 years since I've been on the board. Since I first became a member of the board, obviously we have the right person on board and on the bus, because the length of your title has increased dramatically. And I think that's indicative of the people that we have in our valley. We not only hire people that can do the job that we are aware of today, but has the capacity to take on more responsibilities as things change. And I know my family is very fortunate to have somebody that has taken on the role of security and safety, because I feel very confident as it relates to the processes and procedures and the relationships that you've built specifically in the area of safety and security. And we are very fortunate to have you have a strong foundation as it relates to that aspect of your job and your job description. And you leave us in good stead. And at the same time, why we benefited locally as it relates to the work that you've done now in your new position after you've retired from us, then all of a sudden, obviously, other opportunities do arrive, and the respect that you have with the job that you've done in the area of safety and security, now the entire state of Michigan and all the children of the state of Michigan are going to be able to take advantage of your knowledge, your passion for safety and security, and the positive impact that you will have on the entire state in that area. So I just want to once again say thank you for everything you've done and how much you've meant to our community.
Any other comments? Laura Dodd?
So I've been on Kim's committees, and I think it would be bad to let her go without complimenting her lovely baking skills and all of those things. We will miss your chocolate and your delicious baked goods at committee meetings in the morning. But you know, you brought us through some things that could have been that could have caused conflicts and troubles. So creating a new website, launching a new app, doing all the recruitment in for the young kids, trying some radio campaigns and some other things. And it never was a struggle. You always knew how to get the right people on the committees, bringing in citizens, business folks, everybody together, really to make this stuff work. And I know you'll do that in the state of Michigan. We're very fortunate to have you and your family here for as long as we have, but we will certainly miss you. More than just your baked goods, but the baked goods really a lot.
I
Ms.
have to echo,
Grisinkowski.
Ms. Dodd. Her baked goods are amazing. I was really fortunate to meet Kim prior to being on the board, and she said to me, "I have a job for you." And I thought, I don't know about this, but it really was a very exciting volunteer opportunity for me, and probably is the reason that I'm sitting here today. You are a professional. You are an amazing marketing professional. You understand media. I loved your JK campaign. I thought it was just spectacular. But the look, the feel, the brand of Huron Valley is a result of your amazing skill in marketing. And so I have to congratulate you. Safety and security is that hidden piece, but it's such a huge part of your job. And it's something that you took on in a way and owned it in a way that you didn't necessarily have to, but did. And so I know as a parent, I am happy that our schools are safe. I appreciate all the work that has gone into that. And I also just appreciate what you do for our community. So for what you've done for me as a newbie board member, I say thank you. I wouldn't have known how to navigate some of the situations, and you were a rock, and you were a rock star. So thank you, Kim.
Dr. Slaw.
Thank you, Mr. President. I prefer to make a couple of remarks here rather than under my superintendent comments. I don't want the food to take us away from the importance of Kim. Kim, I will share more on Friday, but I'm going to share just a couple of things. I usually methodically script out what I'm going to say during my superintendent comments, but I really didn't find it necessary to do that. I just wrote down 8 words that espouse who you are. You're caring, you're competent, highly competent. There wasn't a task that didn't come before you that you couldn't wrap your mind around and come up with a game plan and help us conquer. Passionate, deeply passionate, a person who knew how to say no, but say it the right way, which I think is just such an important skill to have. Capable. COVID queen is, I think, encompasses the capable side of that. Creative. I mean, you heard many board members speak to your launching of the website and all the creative thinking you've done around marketing. Charismatic when you need to be. Patient. And one of the most important, especially when you're dealing with the day-to-day operation of a complex organization with 1,200 staff and 60 buses where anything could happen at any given moment, calm under pressure, which is just so important in this role. So I'm so grateful for having gotten to know you over the last 4 years. Truly, I'm a better person and better leader as a result of who you are. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Denise.
Well, Kim, I don't know what more I can say. Everybody said it, but I consider myself fortunate. I not only got to work with you, you and I became friends, and I became friends with Randy, and I got to work with him. And I'm so fortunate and thank my lucky stars every day to know both of you. You and your family have really touched me, and what you have done in the district has, there's no words, because you are the go-to when something happens. And like Paul said, you've remained calm and considerate, and I just can't let you know how much you mean to all of us, much you mean to me and my family. So thank you, Kim.
Oh, yes. And of course, you'll go right under Jeff Long on the plaque. After you, I hope, will be me in 6 months. So, Kim, congratulations on the honor roll. And your fingerprints are all over this district. Big shoes to fill, but your fingerprints are not on this district, but on each and every one of our hearts as well. So thank you. I'll turn the mic over to you.
So I'm really at a loss for words. Most of you know that. And I knew that tonight would be tough and Friday is going to be tough because there are things that you do your whole career. And I've been the COVID queen, but I've also been the chief spokesperson for the only licensed vaccine for the prevention of anthrax. I've been the spokesperson for the Michigan Education Association when there were strikes in this state. I've been the chief spokesperson for a company that had many, many, many challenges. But Huron Valley became my home. It stole my heart. We lived in this community and, came to love it and grow to love it. I wasn't prepared for this. I thought I was. I wasn't, because I'm humbled and honored by your words. I'm honored to work and have worked with some of the most dedicated, most intelligent, most hardworking people I've ever met in my life. And my career has spanned, I'm going to give away my age, nearly 40 years. And so there are so many people to thank. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank, Lindsay and Denise. You've become some of my best friends, and you will be, and I will treasure your friendships for the rest of my life. To the COAT team and Dr. Salah, thank you for always valuing my work. That's not always the case in roles like these. Thank you for allowing me to challenge you and challenge your thinking at times. And I do appreciate that. And I want to thank my husband, Randy, who has been through my side through all of it. He's the guy that, I handed a stack of bonded and sinking fund signs and a map and said, go out and put these out. And he did it for like 10 hours straight. He was the guy who listened as every principal in the district called me on Sunday night and said, what am I going to do? I got a COVID case. And we talked through that. He's the guy that woke up when I got calls from Paul Salat at 4:30 in the morning and said, we're going to have a snow date. Can you get all the communications out? So he's been there through all of that. And I want to thank him for that. And I want to thank my kids and my grandkids who I've sacrificed, birthdays and some of that stuff for so that we could do this work and we could do it right. And it is really, really meaningful work. And I can tell you, for anybody that's listening, the folks at these tables get up every day and they think about what's the right thing to do, and then they figure out how to do it. So I thank you for your friendship, for allowing me to be a professional. I'm going to go to work for the state of Michigan and the Michigan State Police, but nothing will ever compare to this. So thank you, and that's all.
All right, we'll now move to section 2C, school presentations.
I would invite Mr. Van Gotham, if you want to kick this off.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Salah. So we have with us tonight Sarah Simmerman, who oversees our food service and nutrition department. And what she wants to do is give us a brief update on what's happening in our food service and nutrition world, and has also provided some samples of some food that our kids eat on a daily basis. And she's excited to share a little bit about what's going on and then provide you guys with some food as well. So I will have Sarah come up to the podium and she will get us started. So thank you, Paul.
Well, thank you first for having me. I'm excited to do this. Our program has never been busier, and we have a lot to share, but I can't share it all. The food nutrition update for the 21-22 school year, I'd like to showcase some of our priorities and some of our initiatives that have been really successful. Apparently I'm okay. Okay, so we started better with breakfast before COVID, and we piloted it at 2 schools. We did Oxbow and we did Highland. And the principals and the teachers loved it. Kids came in, they had something to do, they could sit down, they calmed down. They didn't mess around because they could just come in and eat. So better with breakfast in the classroom, we have done at every elementary school. And it has been, and I hopefully continue into the next school year and those following, a huge success for us. The kids come in, my staff take it down to the classrooms, and then the kids come up and pick out what they want. We offer them a grain, milk, and fruit juice. So the best things about Better with Breakfast are listed. Kids come in, they don't have time to eat, or they didn't wake up in time, or they're just not hungry until after they've had that long bus ride or their parents have dropped them off. With our students feeding breakfast in the classroom, there's no overt identification of the students that are participating, and they don't have to go down to the cafeteria and walk back and make a little trip to get their breakfast. If they are late, if they miss the bus, or their parent drops them off, or the bus is late, they still have the opportunity for breakfast. And that's really important, because as a parent, I was always up early and I could count on my kids getting breakfast at school. But I also could count on the fact that if the bus was late, they would still get breakfast. Michigan Department of Ed considers breakfast in the classroom, it's a part of the educational day. So it counts towards education time. Breakfast cards, second chance breakfast, and breakfast in the classroom they offer additional options for HVS secondary students as well. We have carts out there. We have opportunities for them at the cafeteria. And United Dairy has provided us with this equipment, and they recently visited Muir to see the operation that Kim Normandin has going on there and how successful that has been. She was probably doing 40 meals, breakfast meals, and now she's up to over 100. So it does make a difference being able to offer breakfast in less traditional forms than just coming through the line. Our elementary students, our breakfast has tripled. At least more than half the students in each classroom are eating breakfast with us. And another great consequence of that is that for students that don't bring in a snack, or they forget theirs, what the other students don't eat at breakfast, the teachers have taken, the students know that there's a snack there for them, and everybody is provided the second chance breakfast. So the studies are out there, I mean, and they're very important. The science is you work faster, you make fewer mistakes. Students perform better on tests, showing improved concentration, alertness, comprehension, memory, and learning. And I find that to be the same for me. I don't know about you all, but if I miss breakfast, I'm just not doing as well. So we've been talking a lot in our program and throughout about mental health, and breakfast helps with that. It really does. It's there's no anxiety there. There's no, for a lot of our students, they are food insecure. We have over 3,000 kids in our district that are on free and reduced, are on our meal program, and we don't want anybody to worry about where their meal's coming from. So that's our breakfast in the classroom program, and it's going to be there next year. So for these kids. So let me get, okay. So this year, we have community eligibility provision for 3 of our schools. What that is, it's approved by building. You have to apply, and it's approved by building, not district. So our buildings that are over 50% or close to 50% free and reduced, which are Harbor, Highland, and Oxbow, will continue to have all of their meals regardless of their financial situations. They will continue to eat all their meals for free. Harbor High's been doing it since before COVID. And once we are approved, which we have been, it will carries over for 5 years. So we don't have to go through the application process again. And again, I just want to put out there, it's only the students attending these buildings. It might be a little tricky with another sibling in another school building, but this is how it's working right now, is only for the schools at these buildings. At this time, we might have a last minute reprieve by USDA and possibly, very minute possibility, be able to continue our program where all meals are, we have universal meals, which means all of our students can eat regardless of financial situation for free. Okay, this is where I start getting excited. Most of our breakfast and lunch meal items are not available in retail stores, which means our donuts aren't donuts that you get at a store. They have, almost all of them have 4 of the nutrients of concern, which in our world is potassium, vitamin D, calcium, and fiber. Almost all of our, well, every one of our breakfast items has over 2 grams of fiber. And they have, and then a milk that goes with that has the other 3 nutrients of concern, the calcium, the vitamin D, and the potassium. So I like to say our breakfast is a vitamin pill. We also serve fruit juice where you're going to have your vitamin C. So all of it's covered. Students just have to have the opportunity to eat it. And everything we serve has 14 grams of sugar or less as far as our grain items. So it's not what people think school food is. It's much more of an opportunity for our students to, number one, get used to what a healthy meal looks like. They see it on the plate. They know, oh, hey, you know, there's my juice, there's my milk, and there's my whole grains. So we want them to grow up and know what a healthy breakfast is, almost indoctrinate them, but not really. None of our products are deep fried. Milk, low-fat white, or chocolate. In our district, for our younger students, we only serve white for breakfast, depending on, we've had a few issues getting milk this year, but, and then we only serve 1 juice a day. I got a thing about juice at every meal. At our high school and our secondary schools, we do offer milk and juice and chocolate milk at the breakfast and lunch. So we are highly regulated. When I look at things, I look at the blueberry crisp and I think, okay, that's antioxidants. It's a half a cup of fruit with some whole grain on it, oatmeal crisp. You know, we have wonderful watermelon up here. We get that from our commodities, which our USDA provides us. We haven't had a lot of variation this whole year, but now we're finally getting it where we're not just serving apple slices and carrots. So we had a lot of that this year because of the supply chain. We have whole grain cookies. There's 1 gram of fiber in those. And they have to all follow our calorie, fat, sodium, and added sugar requirements. Then there's our wraps. And the exciting thing about the wraps are Beth Walter, our high school manager for Lakeland and Milford. Lori Adkins, our nutrition consultant for Oakland County, and she's going to be our new School Nutrition Association president. She came to our school, Lakeland, took all of these, took pictures of the line, and it went national. So that was pretty exciting. So Lakeland was right up there, and she did a whole PowerPoint presentation at our industry conference and at our legislative conference. So there's the meal. You've got your school lunch trays, which we had a hard time getting this year. So everything's just like we would have it on a school lunch line. So And it's really good. Those wraps are amazing. I go to stores and other restaurants, and ours are amazing. And another great thing about the grab and go stuff is kids go through the line faster. I hear all the time that kids don't have enough time to eat, and it's absolutely true. I think if you go to any if we could even get them 5 more minutes, but the grab and go really helps. And again, it really helps with having breakfast in the classroom because it's right there. So with the event of the universal meals ending, we're really going to push for parents to fill out the application. It's hard to see, but our application helps fund our school programs. It pays for testing, or it allows students that are on the program to have their test paid for. We have obviously there's work with, if they have a letter showing that the family has been approved for free and reduced meals, they can take it to Comcast and get help with internet. And then, of course, it's a way for the kids to eat, even if they don't want the universal meals or the meal program. This application does a lot more than that. So we're going to be putting that out with our applications. As our children get older, the less free and reduced students we have. So there is an overt identification concern there with our students. And it's probably, I get more applications filled out by high school students at the end of the year because of the testing, the free testing. So I just want to thank everybody here for your support. The school departments, from maintenance to paras to teachers to staff to the business office. I mean, we're a program of, I tell my staff, we're not schools, we're a district. My staff has gone all over. When we've needed someone here, I've sent them over to another school. Everybody knows that we've been short at least, at the minimum, 8 people, and we're feeding more meals. So we couldn't have done it without the principals and the paras and M&O racing around delivering our food at the last minute because it didn't come in on time. And it's been an amazing thing to see with the pandemic and everything, how Huron Valley Schools in other departments, not just ours, and in other challenges we've all had, how everybody has worked together, and it's unbelievable. So thank you all. That's my 15 minutes of fame, right, Jeffrey?
No,
So-
it's more than 15 minutes, but 15 minutes for the presentation.
Oh,
Their
okay.
fame is never ending, so.
All right, so there's a bunch of food up here. It's all good. It's all great food, so. And thanks to Beth and her group over at, in Milford that did it today for us.
Sarah, I've got a question. I know you got excited on the slide talking about fiber and nutrients and,
Your face doesn't look exciting right now.
well, I am learning to read labels. But the slide before that, I was really interested in. I'm not aware of our community eligibility provision for our kids, and the fact that Oxbow and Harbor and Highland all participate in that. Any student at Highland Elementary, whether they're free or reduced or
Paid.
haven't even applied, everybody gets the meal.
Yes. Yep.
That's
It-
wonderful.
Yeah, it's, our numbers have crept up. You have to apply for it for MDE, and like I said, we've had it at Harbor for a while. And Harbor's at like 70%.
So that was going to be my question, because previously as an administrator, I would beat the bushes to get those free and reduced forms back because it meant funding for our building.
Yes.
whether they accepted the free or reduced or not. So for CEP, they're good for 5 years, you said. Does that do any, then do we just,
We still want the applications. We also, for this
Okay.
program, they fill out a household income report.
okay.
But yeah, we still push to have
So
those.
we're still getting the applications
Yes.
because of the other benefits that they get
Yes.
from having the application. That's great to know. I sure appreciate the work you've done with our food service.
Thank you.
I kind of worked a lot during COVID delivering stuff, but I really appreciate the changes that our food service department has gone through over the years. It's just phenomenal, and the people that are serving our kids do a great job. So thank you very much.
They're amazing. They
They are.
really are. The kids, it's one thing that they get to see every day
Yeah.
is to come in and see those people. And it's like, it's like your mom feeding you. They have a great relationship, and it's just really important for them. The application, I like to call it the gift that keeps on giving. So we're really going to push for those this year. And I stole that idea from Utica Schools. So
There's no stealing in this district, just liberating.
liberate.
So, all right. Any other questions, comments? Mr. Weissman?
Yes, Sarah, thank you very much for your presentation. We talk a lot about preparing our students to learn. And your department plays an enormous part of making certain that our students are prepared to learn. We always talk about transportation, our bus drivers being the first people that our students see every day. The part that you play and your staff plays to prepare our students to learn is an invaluable resource, and I really appreciate it and respect that. I think Ms. Cotter mentioned Oxbow and Harbor and Highland next year qualifying for universal lunch or universal breakfast.
And lunch.
But this year, USDA, all of our students have qualified
Yes.
for that. And that's now that we're coming out of post-pandemic, I think it's important for people to recognize we're going back to what it used to be pre-pandemic. So
Correct.
from a communication standpoint, it's extraordinarily important for people to understand that. It makes a tremendous difference. It's unfortunate that many of our students won't qualify for that free grab and go breakfast and lunch, because it does have an impact. At the same time, you're absolutely right as it relates to those applications, because it means more than just having a free lunch or a free breakfast. We rely on those applications for so many different things. So it's really imperative coming out of the pandemic that people do apply, and we make certain that it's seamless and confidential. So I appreciate your comments. The food looks delicious. I'm hungry, so maybe later on we can try some of those. Maybe we can do a grab and go right now. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any
Thank
other
you all
comment?
for this opportunity. Come and
Any-
eat lunch with us or breakfast.
Any other comments? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now move to Section 2D, Superintendent Communication.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening to all of you that are here and to all of you who are watching online. Thank you for being here. So a couple things this evening. I am going to do a quick task force report out, but before I do that, Jerry, you can cue that up while I'm making some introductory comments. I just want to congratulate all of our graduates. Yesterday was an awesome day. We saw over 600 students between Milford and Lakeland High School walk across the stage, and it was truly inspirational. It was just a fantastic event, fantastic events, and I am just incredibly proud of our kiddos. That's why we're here. It's the most important reason. And when you get them to graduation day and you see everyone that's there loving on them and providing that support, it just doesn't get any better than that. So congratulations, graduates. Incredibly happy for you and look forward to the next steps. I also want to take a moment here and congratulate, I think we have two new officers, right? So Denise, Secretary, Tom, Treasurer, congratulations. Look forward to working with you in your new capacities, and of course, look forward to continue to work with both of you in your current capacity. So I want to just take a couple minutes. We're going to fast forward to slide 32. We went a little long last week, and I want to spend a couple minutes touching on some of the themes that emerged from the task force. And if you'll recall, we've talked extensively about the work of the task force. It was made up of a couple dozen, maybe actually more like 40 or 50 people over the course of the school year that came together to ask the questions around three primary factors. One was, how do we continue to support our students with social and emotional learning as we emerge from the pandemic? Two, what opportunities might there be for program enhancements? And three, as we prepare students for jobs that do not exist today, AKA the new economy, what skills will they need in order to be successful? We had several conversations. We had facilitated discussions. We had a panel with representatives from Automation Alley, as well as some thought leaders in the industry. And it was just a fantastic year, and we learned a great deal from the folks that were present. We facilitated an exercise in our very last meeting, because you can imagine there was just a plethora of ideas around program enhancements, providing supports for SEL, and what types of initiatives we should be thinking about as we think about preparing kids for economies that do not exist. And what we did was we drilled down to, if you had to pick the most important thing at your table, and we had 6 tables, what would that one thing be? Because there were so many ideas that emerged. And I want to highlight a couple things. Table 1, you'll notice what's circled is win, which is what I need. So it's meeting the needs of students where they are at. Specifically, Huron Valley Schools prides itself on inspiring and building futures one student at a time. We do that by providing support through the arts, the athletics, and the academics. We really try to tailor make an educational experience for our students. And so there was a recognition that what I need time, whether it's enrichment or intervention, is really critical, and it should remain a focus for us across all levels. And that's going to be infused into our thinking as it relates to strategic planning. I also want to call out, even though it's not circled, I want to call out class sizes. I think this is really important. And I want to digress here for just a moment, because I've had a few emails from parents over the last week and a half, and we've spent a lot of time at this board table actually talking about the budgeting process and class sizes. And we actually spent some time with the task force talking about class sizes, because again, as I've shared, school funding is very complicated, and unless you live it every single day, you need to ask the right questions, and you need to have an opportunity to hear those responses. And so I'm going to take just another moment to educate here, because I think it's important. The way schools staff their buildings is based upon where we start as our contracts, our collective bargaining agreements. That class size that is dictated, and that collective bargaining agreement dictates how we staff our buildings. There are 2 factors that drive our budget. One is enrollment, and 2 is the foundation allowance that's provided by the state of Michigan. We don't know either of those factors when we begin the budgeting process and we ask the Board of Education to adopt a budget. So we have to make our best predictions based upon historical data trends, based upon our third-party entity that actually gives us what birth rate data looks like coming into the upcoming school year, in order to help us make those predictions. For the current school year, our class sizes at the elementary level were 22. I'm going to repeat that. 22 were our class sizes for the current school year. It's an incredibly low number. And what I want to emphasize here, because I'm saying class average, that means that we might have 28 in one class. That also means that we have 18 in another class. And that's part of how we have to build our staffing modules, because we don't know today how many of those kiddos are going to show up that first week of school. So as of right now, for those of you who are out in our listening audience, and those of you that are at home, our class sizes for next year are right around 24, 25. Right now, we're slated to have some classes that are at 28. We also have some that are at 18. We have to make our best predictions based upon the data we have in front of us right now. And we've also made the decision to carry 9 staff that could have been laid off, so that if, when school starts, if we need one of those folks to step in and take one of those classes, they're ready to do that. And that was a responsible thing to do. If you see what's happening out there in the media, there are school districts that are literally laying off over 50 staff members, 50 teachers. And some districts, I've heard numbers as much as 100. I mentioned at our last board meeting that we actually are in the process of hiring somebody that's been laid off from one of those districts in a hard to fill area, actually in a physics classroom. So we've talked about this extensively. Mr. Wiseman, you asked a number of great questions at the last board meeting as we were talking about the budget. I invite those who have questions, please don't hesitate to send me an email. There's nothing more that I would like to share with you these processes and how we have to run the school district on a day-to-day basis. So I digress. I'm going to go back here for a minute. I think so. The win was a really important finding from table 1. From table 2, what was circled as a huge focus for table 2 was social work as a special. And this was one of the ideas that emerged. I think this is important because I know that this year has been challenging for a lot of different reasons. And one has been a focus on the mental health of our students and how we can provide greater support. That was something we talked extensively about at our task force. And we heard this come up frequently. You'll notice that table 3 also had win for socially emotional support at all levels. So you notice a theme here that's starting to emerge. There's definitely a request and a need from the task force for a greater focus on social emotional and win time and how we can provide that what I need support. Table 4, their focus was on engaging parents to advocate for proper funding because obviously funding drives many of these decisions that we discuss. The more funding we have, the more that we can do to support our students. Table 5 focused on changing graduation requirements. And for those of you who aren't familiar, the Michigan Department of Education has to implement the graduation requirements that have been dictated by the Michigan legislature. So there are 18 credits that are required by law that we must implement. And so there was some discussion around, well, how do we lobby and ask for greater support from a legislative perspective to help change the paradigm on some of these thoughts? Maybe not every single student needs to take Algebra 2. Maybe they'll benefit from a career tech type program, but they're limited in the course offerings they can take as a result of those restrictions in the laws. Table 6 focused on, again, social emotional learning and asked that social emotional learning should actually be one of the subcommittees that makes up the strategic plan. And last time we met, I did share that was one of the subcommittees. So, Mr. President, I had a quick update, wanted to provide, circle back on that, the task force and provide a high level overview. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll now move to student leadership. I don't believe we have any student leadership here this evening, so we'll move to association communication. Ms. Hollander.
Yeah, she's right.
Good evening. Last week, I was filled with enthusiasm as I highlighted our retiring teachers. But today I'm filled with sadness as I share that on May 19th, Jennifer Rieger, a longtime teacher at the International Academy, lost her hard-fought battle with cancer. Jennifer was a bright light in our district, and sharing her life and spirit with all of you is important to me. Jennifer was a founding member of the International Academy West campus in 2008 as a Spanish teacher. She was actively involved as a staff member and was passionate about building the Spanish program, mentoring new educators, traveling abroad with her students, and serving as the tri-campus Spanish department head. Lynn Gibson, principal of the International Academy, she remembers Jennifer and shared that her patience, insights, kindness, and dedication enriched their community every day. Jennifer's colleagues described her as a natural teacher and an advocate for her students. She loved expanding the knowledge of her Spanish teachers and helped to strengthen the Spanish program at the IA. She designed an environmental unit for the Spanish class, loved to teach her students about Spanish culture, as well as she wrote and developed a workbook to assist her students in mastering the language. A former student says, and I quote, "Profe Rieger touched the lives of so many, and she's the reason I'm a Spanish major today. I still have her grammar book that I reference with all the stickers that she gave out, especially the ones she saved for the people who would really appreciate them." Another former student remarks on the leadership skills that Jennifer instilled. Quote, "Profe Rieger was one of the first people to foster my leadership skills, something that certainly had a huge impact on the course of my life. I was part of the Spanish Honor Society, a club that she advised at the IA. And at that point, I hadn't held any leadership positions, and I didn't have confidence in my leadership abilities. Profe Rieger encouraged me to run for being the president, a decision I certainly wouldn't have made on my own, and demonstrated a confidence in my skills that I didn't even know I had at the time. When I was elected, her support continued and ultimately catalyzed a love for service and community in my life." Jennifer's sister, Penny Shanahan, shared with me that Jennifer was a very dedicated, talented teacher who cared deeply for her students and always bragged about how amazing they were. Ms. Shanahan also remarked that Jennifer was very proud to teach in Huron Valley, and she was excited to teach at the same school where her niece attended, who was a 2021 Lakeland High School grad. As a colleague, Jennifer is described as a quiet observer who listened and didn't judge. She was a voice of common sense and always took the initiative to do whatever she needed to do to finish the job. She graciously shared her ideas and lesson plans with her fellow educators, had logical ideas for how to solve the problems that arose at school, and was able to remain calm in the face of chaos around her. Jennifer loved to share her knowledge and passion for nature. It was vital to her to keep the work for the environment clean and to live a healthy lifestyle. She was so proud when she achieved the Michigan Green School status for the IA West. Jennifer often voiced important environmental information to her fellow colleagues and students before it was the in thing to do, thus making everyone in her life, at home, and at school a better educated environmental citizen. Jennifer will be deeply missed by her IA students, colleagues, and those who were fortunate to know her. A fellow IA educator shared, "Jennifer did her job and loved her students. Her students loved her well. She was kind, thoughtful, very funny, and wise beyond her years. I will miss her very much. I will never forget her." Huron Valley will also never forget Jennifer Rieger. Her spirit will always shine bright through her colleagues who walk the halls each day and through the students who have been forever impacted by the lessons that they learned and the kindness that they felt from their incredible teacher. Jennifer, you will be greatly missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hollander, can you step back up to the mic for a second? Just wanted to ask a question, and just so that we have an understanding. I know that Mr. Weissman, Ms. Forrest, and myself, and Dr. Salah throughout the year had an opportunity to sit down with teachers throughout the district, both elementary and secondary, to get a sense of what their concerns and what their issues are in the district, and appreciate all of your hard work of putting that together. Very beneficial for the school board to hear and have some very open dialogue. And some meetings were tough, but all of them were great.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your leadership in doing this. I just want to get a sense, though, too, just organizationally, you have building reps in every school building. Is that correct?
Yes, we have one at Apollo and then 2 at our elementaries, and our high schools have at least 3 or 4. It
Okay.
depends on how many staff members are at each building.
And then all teachers have an understanding that if there's a concern or issue that they have, no matter what that is, whether it's a safety concern or a curriculum issue or whatever,
Absolutely.
to rise that up through the building reps and then to yourself. Is that correct?
Absolutely. They can go straight to the building reps, any of our executive committee, and to me. I get over 100 emails each day from staff. So
Okay.
communication with them is important to me.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your leadership. in the
You're
district.
welcome, and thank you for the collaboration.
Thanks. All right, we'll move to board correspondence. Madam Secretary, have you received any emails since 6:15?
No correspondence tonight, Mr. Carlson.
All right, thank you. Board Treasurer, do you have a
Nothing.
report?
Nothing, I do have a report, but I'll
A
wait. till-
treasurer's report?
I'll wait till
All right,
item H.
all right,
Okay.
sounds good. Any other board members? Ms. Cotter, Ms. Grisomkowski, Ms. Forrest, Ms. Dodd? All right, we'll now move to the treasurer's report on H.
Yes, just very quickly. Last week, our last board meeting, we approved the 2022-2023 budget. Tonight, by law, we have to approve the amendments for third quarter and fourth quarter, because it's important to note that we must adopt a balanced budget. And during the course of the year, as things become firm, for example, our enrollment, our foundation, our federal monies, our state monies, all of those things need to be amended so that we have a balanced budget in place, and we have a budget that's will be audited now. I believe they're doing field work presently or have completed it. Mr. Van Gothen?
So they completed preliminary testing, Mr. Wiseman, in April, and they'll resume the full audit in September.
And we'll have a report on the findings for 21-22 sometime 1st of November.
Yeah, we'll probably have it at the 1st or 2nd November board meeting.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing I do want to report, I appreciate the vote of confidence by the board to place me in the role of treasurer, but I do want to recognize I was going to say old treasurer, but that would not be appropriate. I think our previous treasurer would be the best way for me to describe Denise. I do want to recognize and appreciate the work that you've done over the last 2 years as being treasurer, working very closely with Jeffrey and the rest of the board. I also think it's important to note that in the role of treasurer, you were the chairperson of our finance and operations meeting. She was definitely, as a member of that committee, and Ms. Cotter was also a member. I would describe her as a taskmaster. We had some very long meetings. I would never describe them as being short. Your leadership was very appreciative. We went through a lot of work over the last 2 years, a lot of complex issues as it relates to our non-homestead millage, our bond issue. I appreciate the work that you've done, the transparency that you provided to us, and the information that you gathered. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of myself and my fellow finance and operations members. So once again, it's certainly recognized, respected, and appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wiseman. I appreciate both of you on my committee as well.
All right. We'll move to reports from the board committee. Executive committee did not meet since our last report out on June 6th. So we'll move to the TLT committee. Ms. Dodd.
Same report as executive. We have not met since the last meeting. Our next meeting will be this Friday at 8:30 at the administration building.
Okay. All right. We'll speak to that in a second. Finance and operations.
Finance and Operations did meet on Friday, June 10th, 10:15 in the Administration Building. Present were myself, Mr. Wiseman, Mr. Cotter, Dr. Salah, Mr. Van Gotham, Mr. Reby, Ms. Kerrigan, and Ms. Maruskin. There was no public comment. We talked about consent agenda. We talked about organizational meeting tonight that took place prior to the regular board meeting. As Mr. Wiseman mentioned, we talked about third and fourth quarter budget adjustments. And tonight we are asking the Board of Education to approve the attached resolutions for the general fund and the special revenue fund at this evening's board meeting. We discussed state and federal grant budget. Huron Valley Schools proposed state and federal grant budget for the 21-22 fiscal year includes $15 million in revenue, $2 million in expenditures in 2020-21, and those are applied to the current year grants. We are asking that the Board of Education approve the 2021-2022 state and federal grant budget as presented at this evening's board meeting. Originally, we had playground equipment on unfinished business. It got moved tonight to new business, so that will be discussed at Finance and Operation. Just so you know, the project is funded from the 2020 Capital Projects Fund. The committee reviewed the first half of the 7,000 property series policies and the remaining part of the 6,000 finance series. They will be available for a first read in the July board meeting. We had a long discussion about the Night Lock 1 and Night Lock 2 options. We are contacting the vendor and to get some samples for a trial on doors within the district. The board also asked that the new door replacement be in a separate bid in addition to bid pack 9. We discussed informal meeting on July 8th at 9 a.m. to tour the bid pack 5 schools and discuss any potential finance and operation items prior to the first board meeting of the 22-23 school year. We talked about Sarah presenting tonight. Thank you, Sarah. It was a great presentation. Jeffrey provided an update to the committee members on district correspondence regarding our community efforts around our terminated wastewater plant. The future discussion is board policy review 8,000 and 9,000 series. And as I said, an informal meeting tour on July 8th at 9 a.m. if anybody would like to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to Communications, Marketing, and Legislative. Vice President Force.
We have not met since our June 3rd meeting, and there'll be a meeting coming up to be announced. And so just move into arts, athletics, and activities.
Go ahead.
I will do that. We have not met, but as promised, we have a little presentation of the data that we've collected over this past year for all of you to enjoy. Mr. Tavernier is going to go through that.
And while Mr. Parrott is bringing that up for us, just a quick update. So this was the Aaa Final Report that came from our our May 24th meeting. At that meeting, we reviewed a summary report and looked at all of the data that was collected, our processes that were used, and recommendations. And at the end of that meeting, it was recommended that we share this with the full board for consideration this evening. So with that, I'm going to jump right in. So just as we got started this year with our AAA committee, again, focusing on arts, athletics, and activities, connecting students to school, as just background and overview, research suggests, and we believe as a district, that connections to schools lead to greater success, both academically and social emotionally for students. We've seen that over and over in research conducted, and Mr. Carlson mentioned that earlier this evening as just a commitment that this district has made for all students. Participation in peer groups and interest activities promotes the well-being of the whole child, and whether it's in the arts or it's in the athletics, students having those opportunities to connect to school is very important. Thanks. Driving questions. So as we came together as a committee this year, we wanted to look at what opportunities currently exist within Huron Valley Schools, within the arts, the athletics, and then we also, normally we say arts, athletics, and academics, and for the purposes of this committee, we looked at the activities. So those extracurricular activities that students can engage in And that might be in the district or it might be external, other programs, dance and, competitive and travel sports and some of the other types of opportunities that exist. We wanted to identify any gaps or challenges that might exist, and we want to do that through a intentional process of data collection. And we wanted to look at how to improve our practices and processes to ensure that opportunities do exist for all students. And if we had any gaps, we were able to address that. So the committee was made up of Ms. Forrest was our chair, Mr. Carlson, Mr. Dodd, myself, Dr. Salah, and then from our TLT department, Ms. Bjorkman, Mr. Lindberg, and Ms. Nemeth supported the work that we conducted this year. We also had other attendees listed there on the screen. So we had teachers, administrators, some from our athletic department, and many from that work within the district, within our elective program, the arts and the athletic programs. We also had our student leaders. So our student leadership team, Haley and Fletcher and Caden did some of this data collection and reporting out this year as well. Just a summary of dates. So we met throughout the 2021-22 school year, and both on September 29th and October 25th, those are highlighted as dates that our student presentations were conducted and shared with the committee. So looking at some of the data that was collected, we looked at perception data from our students. Our student leaders designed and facilitated the surveys that were conducted at the International Academy, Harbor, Lakeland, and at Milford. We also conducted a parent and community survey that was sent out through multiple methods. We sent that via email, and it was also included in school newsletters and also our Friday form to invite parents in our community to participate. And then we also sent out a survey to all staff members across the district. We had, go back real quick for a minute there, just other stakeholders. We had feedback from, our leadership across the district. We had teachers, community members, and students that participated as well. So findings, number one thing was value. So as we, again, began, the first slide in the presentation was that we understand and we believe that students having opportunities to be connected to school was valued by all these groups. So stakeholders across the district value the opportunities provided to students through the arts, athletics, and activities. We also found, next slide, Jerry, that stakeholders across the district would like more opportunities. They value and they appreciate all the opportunities that we have in the district, but they always look and appreciate when there's more opportunities. And again, that was across the board, not just in the arts or not just in athletics, but we saw that interest in all areas. Next slide. Many of our high school students in the community are participating in the arts, so we saw a very high level of participation. So, it was over 80-90% of our students are participating in either the arts, athletics, one or more opportunity, and that was as a result of the participation data that we collected from the secondary buildings. We also conducted research just looking at students that were selecting electives as part of their schedule, and we looked at that data as well. We noted, however, that elementary students don't have as many opportunities in district as they do at the secondary level. And that's not unusual. I think the program offerings that we have in Huron Valley are very typical that you would see in a K-12 environment. And we do have a lot of organizations in the Huron Valley community that do provide options for and opportunities for students. For example, our athletic programs with the Mustangs and the Broncos as one example of that. We also found, next slide, that improvements to advertising and marketing would help students know about what's offered. So sometimes, and what we heard in the feedback, especially from students, was they didn't know all of the different clubs that might be offered or opportunities for them to engage at school or in after school activities. And so looking really at that advertising and marketing opportunity to increase participation across the district. One of the things that was also evident was that there was limitations within the school day. Right now, we have a 6-period day at the secondary level. Our middle schools and high schools are made up of 6-period day. So that does somewhat tend to limit the number of electives that students can participate. And then also with limitations, what's offered for them and how convenient it is for them to attend after-school activities, especially if transportation is a challenge. So on the next slide, I think that's actually, I may have jumped ahead, lack of transportation for after-school activities was obviously a barrier. The other thing we heard from our staff was incentives for them to lead and facilitate. Our teachers are involved in so many different things, and some of them have been teaching in multiple modalities the last few years with the virtual academy, and some of them have been offering support and instruction to those students. But those incentives to lead and encourage staff to participate in, and that was seen as an opportunity for us. Next slide. So recommendations, there were 3 recommendations, and Jerry, you can click those through. I think they'll come up. So the first recommendation was really looking at new methods for marketing, advertising, and promoting the arts, athletics, and activity options across the district. And this is really working with our communications team, but also working within the buildings and how they market these opportunities to students. The next recommendation, to look at identifying solutions to provide equitable transportation options for students, particularly in the after-school hours, in order for them to participate. So we may have after-school clubs at the high school, but if a student doesn't have an option to get a bus or find a ride home after that club or that after-school activity, that becomes a barrier. So one of the recommendations was to take a look at that. And then the third recommendation was to look at, as a part of our strategic planning, to really look at the overall infrastructure, compensation, incentives, school schedules, and other elective course offerings as a part of our structure of our school day for students to be able to have opportunities to participate in those options. So that was just a quick summary of the work that was done this year with AAA. We had spent some time talking about next steps. I know one of the things we recommended was that the TLT committee continue to maintain a focus on this and that it be a part of our regular agendas as we go into the next school year. And then I know, of course, Dr. Salah shared as part of the task force many of the same recommendations as well. So I know that that'll feed into upcoming strategic plan work.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the report. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Madam Chair.
just thanks, Mr. Tavernier, for putting that together, and also thank you to your department for listening to the demands we kind of made for, we'd love to see this, this, and this. Can you make it happen? And we'll help you, but, to compile all that data took a lot of work. We were very thorough in this committee, and I would also like to appreciate Mr. Carlson and his vision to develop this committee, because it has been needed, I think, for a while. And I appreciate the opportunity to lead this committee because, of course, the arts is one of my passions. So I'm feeling pretty good about the work that we accomplished, and I'm looking forward to handing it off to TLT and continuing this work, and appreciate the fact that we're going to be having this data, the availability of this data for our strategic plan.
That's great. I'm going to comment on that just a little bit further, but before I do that, I'm going to announce committee assignments for next year that will take effect on June 20th, and then that will roll right into the comments as it relates to this AAA. So the executive committee will be co-chaired by Vice President Forrest and myself and Mr. Weissman, and the alternate will be Ms. Pastana. On the TLT committee, it will be chaired by Ms. Pastana and Ms. Dodd, and Vice President Forrest will sit on the TLT committee, and the alternate will be Ms. Grzymkowski. Finance and Operations Committee will be chaired by Mr. Weissman, and Ms. Cotter will be on that committee along with Ms. Grzymkowski, and the alternate on that will be Ms. Dodd. On Communications, it will be chaired by Ms. Dodd, and Ms. Cotter will be on that committee along with Ms. Pastana, and the alternate on that will be Ms. Grzymkowski. And then as it relates to the arts, athletics, and activities, I think that's an excellent recommendation. We make that as a important point, whether it's every meeting, but it's in the focus. But I also heard in two of the recommendations comments about marketing and advertising. So I would ask our chair, Ms. Dodd, to take a meeting, whether it's the next meeting or another meeting, to talk about how that gets integrated from a marketing perspective. So that keeps a focus on that. And then Mr. Weissman, I'd ask you to take as that recommendation too in regards to transportation, which is a finance and operations piece, and integrate that in whatever you see fit as a next step there, so that we can integrate the good work of the triple, the arts, athletics, and activities ad hoc. The reason, the catalyst behind that was really about getting back to normal from the pandemic. The pandemic obviously gave us one of those life punches and threw us off, and it threw a lot of kids off. There was kids that were in band or the arts or athletics. Athletics experienced amount of kids not going out for that as well. And this was really for us to try to understand, and how do we get kids back involved? Because what we know and what we see at honors night, when we recognize whether it's at Milford High School or Lakeland or even Harbor High, when kids are active and involved in another program, they're not only great ambassadors for Huron Valley School District, but they're more engaged student in the classroom. And so that's why all of this was really important to us as a district, and appreciate the big lift that you had, Mr. Tavernier, on this. And thank you, Madam Chair, for your excellent work on this and keeping it focused. So those are the committee assignments. And now we'll move to public comment, which is section 3. I do have, if there are any other citizens that would like to speak, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 citizen participation forms. One of them is dealing with an item that is being voted on this night, which is Miss Levin has an item which is consent agenda. So I'll ask her to speak first. All the other items are not items that are being voted on this evening, but I will call you up during this moment in time, so you will not have to wait at the tail end of the agenda. So with that, I'd like to invite Miss Levin to the microphone. I know she knows and we know, but for the public audience, we ask on our citizen participation form whether you live in the district or not. Miss Levin lives in the Walled Lake School District, but her children attend Huron Valley Community Schools. Miss Levin.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to say congratulations to all the graduates. As an outsider, it was nice to see that graduation is held at the high schools. I think it's a nice kind of bow on a career to finish where you started. So I think that was very cool. So kudos to you guys for doing that there. I wanted to talk tonight about 2 items. First, every meeting, the board votes on a consent agenda. And for people who are listening but aren't aware, the consent agenda is a host of items that are voted on that are discussed in other locations and at other times, like in committee meetings, and things that the general public wouldn't be aware of unless they're also involved in all the things that are being voted on, going to all the committee meetings, discussing things in COAT meetings and wherever else things are discussed. And as a member of the public, apparently you are not able to get a copy of what's on the consent agenda without submitting a FOIA request. And if you've never submitted a FOIA request, you would not know that a FOIA can take months to get completed, if not at the very least 5 business days from the day that the request was received, and up to 10 more days after that 5 business days if for some reason they can't get you the information. So if a meeting agenda is posted a week before a meeting, it is possible that even if you FOIA something, you will not be able to find out what the results of that FOIA are. So I was surprised When I asked for the exhibits behind the consent agenda, I was told I had to FOIA it. And that doesn't really make a lot of sense, because if the board has access to something that is being voted on, I would think that the public should have access to the same thing. I'm not concerned that there's something on there that's bad. I'm just curious. And I think that, you know, transparency has been a key word for a lot of people, especially this year and over the last couple of years. And there should be no reason why the public can't see what's behind those items. It's being voted on. It's not something that's part of a closed session that people can't see. And to be told you have to FOIA something is just, well, why? If the board has it, it's already a PDF, just forward it to whoever asks. I'm not saying it even needs to be on the website, but if somebody asks, they should be able to receive it. And I don't care if it's going to change. Send me the draft form. If it changes, I'll deal with it. Or send me another one. It's 2022. You hit forward on an email. So I really think that going forward, it's something that needs to change. Additionally, I know I'm running out of time. I was a little disappointed to hear tonight that on the list of all the meetings next school year, the time's going to stay 6 o'clock. I have not seen a survey go out to parents asking if 6 o'clock works for anybody other than the people making the call. And I would really like to see, as I've requested before, a survey just asking if parents prefer a different time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next is Ms. Mathiak. Oh, she left, okay. Katie Vetter. I have that you reside in Waterford School District. Great, thank you.
I'm concerned about the learning environment for elementary school children. Oh, thank you. Within the Huron Valley schools, I'm afraid about the maxed out classroom sizes across the district, and they're having negative impacts on the children's learning. I come here today requesting that the rumors regarding 22-23 school year be addressed and discussed with the families of Huron Valley. At this time, there's a lot of discussion about the plan to overcrowd and overfill these classrooms. There was even discussion about walls being removed in some of these elementary schools. The focus needs to be on learning. More and more, the focus is on managing in the cheapest way possible. We have displaced teachers and empty classrooms. We shouldn't have that. We shouldn't have maxed out class sizes with room available for these students to go. I'd like the plans for the elementary school shared with the parents of the district. For me specifically, the plans for Oxbow, although it sounds like these plans are at all elementary school levels. I don't know how you can justify having 32 plus students enrolled for 3rd and 4th grade classrooms going forward for the 22-23 school year. You already have a teacher who's decided to retire, and having another year managing students, she wanted to teach them and those students wanted to be taught. We already have many kids with major gaps from COVID. And with these class sizes, there would be some sort of miracle if most of these students were at grade level. It's well known that the test scores are way down for the elementary level. Your teachers and staff agree that the overcrowded classrooms are a big part of this decline, the larger class size and the lower test scores. In this environment, there are struggles for all students, but not just the ones that already have learning gaps. What's the plan to support the students that need the additional challenges? What's the plan to keep those that aren't being challenged interested in learning? Some of these students were ahead before COVID, and they're losing their love for learning because they're in an overcrowded and unchallenging environment. These wonderful teachers are being forced to manage their classrooms instead of teach them. They need to be teaching. They need to be allowed to educate our students and keep them engaged. Please take the time to address the rumors to the parents of Huron Valley. The facts, what are the plans for elementary in 22-23? The classroom size is absolutely unacceptable. You're the support leaders of the district. Please support your teachers, but especially support those students. Ooh. I ask that you share with the parents before the last day of school, but more importantly, before school starts, so we know what those class sizes are going to be. What are the plans for the elementary schools? How many sections of each grade and how many students there are? What's the max number of enrollment? And what are the plans for advancing and learning for the students of all levels? And I'll be emailing you all my questions and concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dimick, who resides in Huron Valley.
Good evening. I also came to speak about class size a little bit. I know we discussed it some, and you also addressed a few minutes ago, President Carlson, to the fact that teachers have the ability to go to representatives and bring forth problems. And it almost seems like things aren't being done that way, or if they are, they're also making their way online. And that's just obviously leading to rumors. And so I think we just need to be more upfront with the public on our plans before they make it online and before the teachers are airing their grievances through Facebook or any other means. I have here one of the teachers put together basically a list of the problems with the teachers being displaced, 15 teachers being displaced, classrooms being maxed out sizes specifically up to fourth grade at the 31 kid level. I know that's the max allowed by contract. And one of the big things we promote within our district is that, 20 or 22 average class size? And it seems like we probably get that because we have a couple of specialty classes where there's probably, maybe it's physics 4, we have 8 kids or something, or you have I don't know how we're getting to that 22, but it doesn't sound like 22 is the norm for anybody at the kindergarten through 5 level. So I think class size is just, if we're going to push teachers to the limit, we're going to lose teachers. If we're going to max out, we're going to lose kids to other districts. And it's no-win situation. We have to figure out a way to limit the class sizes below the maximum capacity level to attract more kids, more teachers, keep the teachers happy, because if they're not happy, they're not going to be functioning at their best. And if they're not functioning at their best, our kids are going to suffer. And as we've seen with our literacy gap at 42% in the third grade level, SAT scores significantly down, we can't afford to have teachers not operating at their best. Our kids are already suffering. So it's time to address these issues to ensure that we can, moving forward, do better. And I have 39 seconds left. Wow. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And then we have Miss Christine Burnsfield, who resides in Huron Valley School District.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I also wanted to take some time tonight to speak about my concerns regarding large class sizes in our elementary buildings. It is well documented and established that kids have better outcomes when they have a lower student-to-teacher ratio. I reached out to express my concern at the beginning of last school year, specifically with regards to the incoming third grade classroom at Expo Elementary. My daughter is a member of that class. I'm very familiar with the student population in that group. They have historically struggled with behavioral issues and have required intervention on a regular basis because of lots of interruptions and challenges within the learning environment. Unfortunately, despite my concerns, and also the same concerns being voiced by other parents, administrators, and teachers, only 2 sections were held at Expo last year. Both classrooms fluctuated between 28 and 30 students throughout the year. And with classroom size at that level, the teachers were just not able to give proper attention to the students who were recovering from COVID loss. I've heard many examples from my fellow parents who have kids in that classroom of what they've struggled with this year. But I think that if you review the test scores specifically from these classes, you're going to see what happened. I am blessed that I have a student who excels academically despite the challenges of the last 2 years and in this past year. But I also have to advocate for her because I do feel that she's not being given the opportunity to be challenged and pushed to excel higher because, the teachers are having to focus on the kids that need more help, and I don't blame them for that. I strongly hope that the board will consider the concerns that are being raised by the community. We spoke earlier about averages, and I think averages can be misleading because students who are in a class of 18 are going to have a hugely different experience than a student in a class of 28. Equity is a primary tenet of public education, and I think it should be a priority of this board. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our public comment. But before I officially close public comment, are there any other individuals who would like to speak tonight? Okay, so just as a recap, we have one comment here in regards to consent agenda and also in regards to start time for the school board. We had one citizen participation that was not able to speak. And then we had 3 regarding class sizes. I do believe that Superintendent Salah did address some of the rumors that are out there in regards to the class sizes. I would encourage you, this is an operational issue. I would encourage you to email, reach out to Dr. Salah. We've addressed this. The last speaker who spoke, and I'll just make a comment, I certainly agree, lower class sizes there's not one board member up here disagrees, or including the superintendent disagrees with that statement. But what we would also like is support from Lansing in regards to more educational dollars to achieve that objective too. Proposal A needs to be changed. It creates a huge inequity. That this school district be paid less than a school district in West Bloomfield or Bloomfield Hills. There's no reason why your student or my student that attends this school district should get fewer dollars from the state of Michigan. That is the biggest inequity that happens. So agree with your statement in regards to class sizes, but there are a lot of rumors out there. And of course, with social media, we do get rumors and misinformation. We will try to address those. Dr. Salah does an excellent job of addressing those issues, but we hear what you're saying this evening, and thank you for participating. And with that, we will now move to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve items A1 through A5 on the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve items A1 through A5 on the consent agenda.
Ms. Dodd has made a motion.
I'll support that motion.
And supported by Ms. Cotter. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a roll call vote.
All right. Ms. Dodd,
Yes. Ooh, yes.
Ms. Cotter,
Yes.
Ms. Forrest,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ms. Grzymkowski,
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman,
Yes.
and Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. The consent agenda is approved as presented. I would just like to make a comment. If anybody is interested at any time of summary of expenditures in the check register, it is available online. So you can get access, and that is fully transparent. Jeffrey, is that correct? That's on the website. Anybody can get access. How often is that updated?
I believe it's done either quarterly or monthly. I'll have to double check on that for you.
Okay.
I could let you know that.
So you can see all the checks that are written to who and how much and where. That is out there. It is always available to the public. So I wanted to make sure I'm making that comment. And we will now move to section 5, unfinished business. Item A, Dr. Salah.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's my honor and privilege this evening to recommend for your consideration Barb Rothler, sorry, not Bob, hi Barb. Barb Rothler, who is the final candidate for the Director of Communications and Community Relations position, which is set to replace Ms. Kim Rutt. I will just walk you through the process and for our community to hear the rigorous process that we went through. We had about 30 to 40 candidates. It was closer to 40 that applied for the position. There were 7 individuals that were selected for the first round interview. One backed out at the last moment, so we interviewed 6. The first round committee was made up of 11 individuals. It represented multiple stakeholders, including elementary and secondary education, central office, support staff. Ms. Hill sat on that committee as well. We also had a parent from the community that was involved just because of the importance as it relates to communications with our parents in the community. We wanted to have that parent voice. There were 2 candidates moved forward to the second round interview. I interviewed personally both of those candidates. And I recommended for a final interview with the executive committee of the board, which included President Carlson, Vice President Forrest, and Mr. Wiseman. So that was our third round interview. Barb is being recommended to the board this evening. She comes to us with a bachelor's in applied arts degree from Central Michigan University. She began her career in journalism as a reporter in the news media industry. She became a news and digital director for several local television news stations. Barb has been a media consultant doing contract work for companies. She's teaching social media and crisis management classes. She's provided media training with local fire and police departments and conducting communication workshops with local organizations. Barb also lectures part-time at Eastern Michigan University in copy editing, journalism, media relations, and crisis communication. We don't have any crisis here, don't worry. Her most recent position is the Director of Communications and Marketing for the Detroit Health Department. Her responsibilities include, but are not limited to, media relations for local, state, and national news and media outlets, creation of marketing, collateral and promotional materials, digital platforms, as well as developing and maintaining an engaging social media presence. So, Mr. President, members of the Board of Education, it is without reservation that I recommend Ms. Rothler this evening as our next Director of Communications and Community Relations.
I need a motion. Ms. Forrest?
I will move to approve, move forward. What is the word we're looking for? Appoint Ms. Rothler as our new communications director.
And supported by Ms. Dodd.
Yes.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move for a roll call vote.
All right. Ms. Forrest,
Yes.
Ms. Dodd,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter,
Yes.
Ms. Grzymkowski,
Yes.
Mr. Wiseman.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Barb. I'd like to invite you to the microphone to just make a couple comments.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled with the opportunity to join the Huron Valley School District administration team. I'm excited to work with the board and collaborate to serve the community that I have lived in for more than 20 years and raised my children in this district. So I'm really excited to continue to build on the successes that have already taken place to make our schools safer and more successful in the upcoming year. I do know I have big shoes to fill. I will have to work on my baking. I apologize. It's not one of my fortes, but I am certainly eager to get started, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. There's a great bakery down the street.
I'm your committee chair. I'll help. Don't worry.
All right, we will now move to new business, which under new business, we move the, what's that? No. Okay, we got some rabble rousers up here. We got some, all right, new business, playground equipment, Exhibit C. Is this to Mr. Van Gotham?
This is Mr. Van Giltham. This is a first read, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, so obviously as a result of the successful passage of the bond and sinking fund in 2019, one of the things that needs to be addressed from an outside of the building perspective is our playground equipment. So some of the stuff is greater than 20 years old. Some of it is newer, obviously. This equipment requires constant maintenance and is in need of replacement. The equipment is located obviously at all of our elementary schools as well as the Apollo Early Childhood Center. We had actually gone out on our own consortium and cooperative and went out for bid on playground replacement and had two companies, Sinclair and Schneider Recreation, that were approved as vendors. And that was after, a thorough look of what type of products they had, some of their existing clients, other school districts. And so we went out and asked them for actual quotes on equipment. We also are still a part of the Sourcewell Cooperative and received a proposal from Great Lakes Recreation on that particular piece. After taking a look at all the information provided to us, we decided that Schneider Recreation would be the recommended awardee of our playground equipment. And so for this first reading this evening, we are asking that the board consider new playground equipment for all 8 elementary schools, as well as the Apollo Early Childhood Center for $1,073,200, $56,000 in unforeseen items for your consideration.
All right, thank you. And again, this is a first reading, so if there's any questions or comments, otherwise, the second reading, this will appear under unfinished business in July, at the July 11th meeting. Any questions or comments? Ms. Todd?
Does this include any ground cover? I know right now our playgrounds are mostly wood chips, but there are other playgrounds that have other materials on the ground. As a parent of someone who has come home with multiple wood chips in her face, it's a question that I have been encouraged to ask as far as, are we sticking with wood chips or are we going with some of the other padded?
So we are actually going with, and what the latest trend is, Mrs. Dodd, is like engineered wood chips, so they're not as harmful to faces or other body parts. And so as part of the bid, they will be supplying us with enough coverage to be very safe with respect to the amount of coverage that's needed on these playgrounds.
So the rubber mulch, basically.
It's technically called engineered wood chips, but yeah, it's a softer material than wood in your face. So.
Yeah, it's rough.
My buddy
And if
used to
we
say-
want to
Go ahead.
see more about the items offered, I have to tell you, I have to report back to a kindergarten or a second grader and many of her peers. I'm afraid if I make a bad vote here, that there's going to be a lot of people to report back to. So if we want to see more of the components and that sort of stuff, what's our best way to do that?
So actually, it was brought up to me as a question from Board Treasurer Prestana. I have several buildings that have recently had this work done, and so I'm happy to provide that to the rest of the board, so that if you wanted to take a field trip and check some of the stuff out, you're able to do so.
I have a tester or two, maybe I'll bring along. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That we'll have a lot of free time in about a week. Ms. Forrest?
Is there a specified number of equipment pieces? I know I see lower L and upper L, some freestanding. Does this include separate area for kindergarten or what?
So we're not replacing everything in all of these playgrounds. Need to make that really clear. What our budget called for was one upper L large structure, one lower L large structure, and then 2 standalone pieces. So if you had like just, and again, I can provide some pictures and data if the committee or the board wants to see that, but there are a bunch of standalone options that you can put at either an upper or lower elementary. So we're meeting those needs, and then, hopefully that'll kickstart for other buildings should they want to expand or change. Just given the dollar amount and the needs that we had in the bond, it was impossible to do a 1-for-1 on every single piece we have in the district.
But some equipment will be removed, correct?
Yeah, so the
Equipment.
goal is that for these 4 pieces that we're going to put at each school, we will replace what currently exists. And then obviously as construction has taken place, we've had to, shift some of our spots where we've had some of this equipment. So there's some that, have been, temporarily moved and we'll need to replace those like we are with the other pieces.
Thank you. Any other question? Mr. Weissman?
Yeah, I appreciate Ms. Dodd's comments, because I have some grandchildren they've already expressed a desire or what their educational specs are as it relates to playgrounds. Couple things. Number one, I think this is something that we should not take for granted, because it's very unusual for a school district, quite frankly, to fund replacement playground equipment. Usually that's something that the PTAs, the local district, the local schools do through fundraising. So I appreciate the fact that our community supported it and was part of our bond application. members of each of these schools, from a PTA standpoint, can add on to their playground equipment at pricing through our co-op?
Yeah, so we, as part of our bid, we asked them that they hold pricing for an extended period of time, which is at least another 9 months to a year. So we've already discussed with several of the buildings, some of the pieces that we have available. And then they'll also have an opportunity to basically put in like a purchase order out there if they want to buy additional equipment. So it'll really be district supporting with the 4 pieces that we're able to afford within our bond program. And then the communities will all have an opportunity to purchase really as much as they want or need based on what they have available. And I know that there are several schools that are excited about, we had a couple years here where we weren't spending a lot of money, obviously, in the buildings when, COVID came across us. So I think there's some buildings, and I hope most of them have the opportunity to take advantage of the pricing that we received.
So you're asking for approval for all 8 or 9 buildings, but right now the plan is hopefully this fall or early spring, 2 schools will see this new equipment going in and the rest will follow the following summer.
Yeah. Once the board approves the work, it's a purchase order for the whole district. So my anticipation will be that our construction team will then meet with the rest of the buildings and work through selections and get, teacher input as well as, staff input, and make sure that all the pieces that they select are something that they're really excited about.
And the other thing is I'd be interested in looking at the comparative warranty period, just so that we have that. And also, because there's going to be a turnkey, that they've met all the requirements from a safe install once that process is.
Ms. Cotter.
Yes, I had a question about the engineered chips. They actually are cut on a certain angle so that they lay and embed into the surface, that they're not sticking up poking kids. But anyway, my question is, will this company just be putting the chips under the equipment they install? Or are we going to have the same kind of engineered chips on all of our playgrounds?
No, so for equity perspective, the goal was that they would be replacing the chips throughout our district. And so, I think that's going to lead more into like a year from now, like next spring, most likely. But the goal will be to replace all of the playground wood chips with this new product. And that's, again, part of the quote that we received.
Okay. Thank you. Did they, in the specs, do they tell you how many inches they'll put down, or?
I don't recall, but I can check on that for you.
Sure, that'd be great.
Ms. Grisomkowski.
Will any of the pieces have accessibility for those that maybe don't have complete mobility?
I believe that those pieces are equipped to be adaptable for if those children with, student support or special needs for the playground. That's the plan, that they're available for them as well.
Awesome.
Ms. Pastana.
So as former treasurer, we've had discussions about this. I did send you a list of questions. A lot of them have been asked tonight, but I guess once I see the answers to the questions, I could further discuss it when we bring it forward for a vote. But we have gone to see the play structure, and so that's why I think what prompted us to start having this discussion.
Okay, thank you. I would just request the board to be as engaged when Mr. Tavernier comes with the technology software as well. All right, that was the first reading. We'll now move to good and welfare. Good and welfare, Ms. Pastana.
I just want to say congratulations to all the graduates. It was a great weekend, as we all thought. And I want to thank Ms. Cotter for being our secretary for the past year or two. And helping me along, giving me some advice, and I can only hope to do half as well as she did. So thank you, Ms. Cotter.
Thank you. I'm still taking notes over here.
Any other good and welfare? Ms. Force.
Just a quick, I said this when we met last week, just everyone have a healthy and safe summer. And graduation, of course, was referenced. It was just a joy. It is a culmination for most of our students to get that diploma, walk across the stage, greet their family, and hear everyone clap for their accomplishments. So it's always a wonderful event.
All right. Any other? Ms. Cotter?
Yes, just real quickly. Last week was a interesting week. I was involved in Huron Valley Awards and business on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I did take Friday off, but Saturday I had 3 graduation parties, and I ended the week yesterday for graduation. And few people know there are no perks being a board member in Huron Valley, but handing out a diploma to a student makes it all worthwhile. So yesterday was the epitome of a long week, and I'm glad I had a chance to do it. Thank you.
Ms. Grizemkowski?
I have to echo Ms. Cotter. As the newest member of the board, being able to present a diploma to students that I have known their entire lives was honestly one of the greatest experiences. So to our graduates, I say congratulations, job well done. It was a great honor just to be a part of that ceremony. And I appreciate the fact that both Milford and Lakeland had very comfortable chairs. So thank you for that, but also just thank you for allowing me to be part of that. And Harbor. Harbor was a very special evening as well.
Oh, yes.
I'll
Mr.
just
Weissman.
say it was really nice. First time we've been back in our field houses in 3 years. While the other celebrations were great, the drive-through and on our athletic fields, this was special to be back in our normal field houses celebrating our student success. So it was an outstanding day.
Ms. Dodd?
So I just want to say for everyone who didn't graduate and continues with us, this is an opportunity to end a year, spend the summer investing your time and energy into those things you love and the things you're passionate about, spending time with your family. We're going to be looking for rocks. That's one of our favorite things to do, is go all over the place and dig up rocks and find them. But then really look forward to that fresh start next year. And that fresh start for every single one of us, I think, is so important. When we attended the honors for the middle schools, I was wondering how we can honor those kids who didn't get that 3.0 grad or GPA and higher. And those kids have been in my mind for a while now. And I think, my hope is that we can work on figuring out how to get those kids honored for improvement, for grit, for tenacity, for kindness, for all of those things that we know that they have. So take this time to really reconnect with yourself, find those things you love, and then we're so excited to see you back next year.
Thank you. And then I'll just conclude as number one, saying thank you to the board members for your confidence and nomination and support to be your Board of Education president for 8 more meetings. And so I'm not counting, but I will be working very closely with Vice President Forrest to make sure that we have a very smooth transition here. Which also makes yesterday was a very special day. It is, of course, one of the greatest honors of passing out a diploma, but something really special when you get to present your son with his. So it was a special day. But but I also want to recognize Harbor High was really special as well. The speeches by the valedictorian and salutatorian were very, very touching. And so it was a really emotional few days for me, but really enjoyed it. So thank you. And would like to now move to item section 9, closed session. If I could get a motion, the superintendent, Dr. Salah, has requested a closed session for his evaluation, and so that needs to be voted on. And if I can get a motion.
I'll move that we go into closed session for the superintendent's evaluation.
And I'll support that.
All right, the motion's been made by Ms. Dodd, supported by Ms. Cotter. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. We will now move to closed session.
Please eat the food.
Yeah, please.